So what is up, ladies and gents? It's your boy Lou Streets, and I am back with another video to add on to what we talked about yesterday. And we have some very surprising timing with things. So it turns out NRS Esports account releases a tweet that says, "Forget the turkey, it's Kombat that's cooking. The pro competition returns in 2025. We'll be serving up more details in January." So they got a promo out for this, right? I'm gonna keep it muted because I don't want it on the mic. But as you see here, it's a promo. We see Sonic, Mr. Aqua. It's pretty much promoting all of the stuff that happened in the pro competition one season. And so it turns out they're coming back in 2025. And you see we got the promo with Ghostface, so you know that this is new. The dates on season 2 looks to begin in February the 22nd to the 23rd. And this is gonna be in Marriott, Mexico City, and the Reforma Hotel. So this is shocking, right? And the reason I shared this is because I bookmarked some other tweets. Obviously, we had the information from yesterday with Fate, but check this out. Fate doubles down on everything he says. Let's go check out the tweet. Go back to my bookmarks. So we have the bookmark tweet with the pro competition announcement. And actually, I got the homeboy Tom Brady here. He said, "Glad the players at least get something with the Pro Comp 2. Shades of MK11. Pro Comp 2, then the development is over. Right after year 2, then 2 years of nothing continued." Let's see the second part of his tweet. He follows up on this. Let me check it out. He follows up on this and says, "They are literally doing a referral deal to get people to refer friends to buy the game. That says it all as far as how Chaos Reigns is selling. Hopefully another golden era returns with the next MK, which is what I'm hoping for too. They just dropped the ball on this one. I think it's safe to say that Mortal Kombat 11 was better as an overall project and goal. You know what I'm saying? Like Mortal Kombat 1 just didn't do what it needed to do. I think that debate is pretty much out the window, right? But let's go to some more bookmark tweets. So I got another bookmark tweet right here that says, okay, "The amount of flip-flopping this community does is pretty funny. Yesterday, it's grah, we don't get any support, to today where it's, oh my God, we are so back for Pro Comp 2. I love NRS and WB." And I see that he's being sarcastic, this account called the Alphabet 23. But overall, he's saying like, this is kind of the cope and the denial of the community when it comes to Mortal Kombat 1 and just NRS games in general. I think it's safe to say that this game just, it didn't fit the billing, right? Like they had a lot of goodwill built up with Mortal Kombat 11, and Mortal Kombat 1 just dropped the ball. And outside of just the gameplay and the cameo system and so on, just the launch was just like, you know, the launch to me is almost like, it seems unrealistic, right? It seems unbelievable because you gotta think like this. At the very least, Mortal Kombat 11 gave us all of what we needed as far as from a consumer's perspective. So even if you had certain gripes about the game, which I did, Cetrion, Slight Basketball, upgraded Jackie, etc., the list goes on. You guys know, breakaway, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I felt as if I got my money's worth and I was willing to continue to spend more money on the game. Even when it comes to Mortal Kombat 1, just because of how I purchase games, I'm willing to spend money. So I bought Chaos Reigns, even though I haven't played it to this day, but I've had a lot of fun playing Ghostface, but I did buy Chaos Reigns. I'm willing to spend on things that I like or either have the intention of enjoying, even if I end up not enjoying them, right? So I did buy that. But so let's go on to the next tweet with Tom Brady, and this is him sharing something from Fate, and this is kind of damning, right? Tom Brady says, "I'm sure they weren't happy with the decision, but WB cuts the checks and they had to move on." Pretty much saying that NRS wasn't happy with the decision, but WB said this isn't profitable. We got to move off of it, so we're going forward. This is what Fate says, and I think, and this sounds very sincere. So this is the tweet that made me want to make this video in the first place. Let me open it up. Fate Unknown, the guy who's pretty much been accurate on all these predictions, the guy who kind of caused a lot of the hoorah yesterday when he shared the information about Combat Pack 3 being canceled and all of his other previous predictions that seem to be pretty accurate. This is what he said. So he's doubling down. A lot of people were saying, well, until NRS confirms it, I don't want to believe it. And I understand that, but there are business initiatives that come into play with that. So they don't want to really show their hand just yet. But this is what Future Unknowns or Fate Unknown says. And he says this in a very definitive manner, right? So he says, here's the leak discussion, the end. "Hello, you may have seen yesterday, I gave the news that MK1 DLC has been canceled. This has spread further than the MK community, and I do not want the attention, so I'm stepping away from linking." I'm sure that he feels bad to some extent because you're trying to share what you know as an insider, but you don't want to ruin people's plans or hurt people's finances, hurt the brand reputation around their game and all that stuff. So I can understand some level of guilt because you're thinking you're just talking to a certain community, then it expands, it becomes this big old thing. YouTubers like me jump up on it because we feel like it's very important to talk about, and now you're kind of like the guy who ruined whatever was left of Mortal Kombat 1. And I'm sure that wasn't his intention, so I understand where he's coming from. But let's get back to it. This has spread further than the MK community, and I do not want the attention, so I am stepping away from leaking. I was going to stay around until Conan and T1000 were done, but I am going to end it now. So I'm assuming what he's saying is he's not giving any more information on the game. I will not have info on future NRS games. I wonder, is that voluntarily, or whatever his sources were, was there some type of backlash based on yesterday? I can't tell if this is apologetic from the perspective of just feeling bad, or if maybe some relationships or some sources have been severed. But he says, I will not have info on the future NRS games. Because he doesn't say this game, he says NRS games, period. You know what I'm saying? That's at least how I'm interpreting that. So he says, for my final post, meaning he won't do any more. For my final post, here's further info about the canceled DLC. First, Chaos Reign sales were not the only reason that this got canceled. So Chaos Reign sales weren't the only reason, it was just a big reason. There were multiple reasons the team was pushed to move on, but the sales were just the big reason. So he's basically saying the team was pushed to move on, meaning NRF still wanted to go through with it, Ed Boon and his team still wanted to go through with it. Sounds like it came from the higher ups at WB. There were multiple reasons the team was pushed to move on, but the sales were just the big reason. The NRS team really wanted to do the DLC and are not happy about it, but they have no choice. And that sucks. I feel bad for them because they put in a lot of work, but if this was going to be the end result, the news was going to come out eventually. It does feel bad to put a lot of time into something and then not be able to share it with people, so I fully understand that concept. Second, I do not know what the story stuff would have been. It did not make it far enough for me to learn anything about the details. I'm sorry. Third, the final Kombat pack, I'm assuming this is Kombat Pack 3 if this was meant to be the final one. The final Kombat pack was meant to be 6 characters, 5 Mortal Kombat, and 1 guest. Less guests due to a lot of reasons, but mostly as a thank you to the MK fans for sticking with the game. How do you interpret that? Because on one hand, while that sounds cool to say thank you for sticking with the game, if you give a quality product, the expectation should be that the fans would stick. So I kind of got mixed feelings about that, because that it comes off from like a weak position, like to thank your fans for sticking with your game. If you're making a great product, while I understand showing gratitude, there's also a level of, hey, we got this bomb ass shit that we want you guys to enjoy. Saying to thank fans for sticking with the game and giving them MK characters, that comes off as, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I'm curious to what you guys feel about that in the comments, because a thank you to the fans for sticking with the game, if you're going to support it for years and you had this big project that you wanted to launch, I feel like that should be more of an expectation, even if you're showing gratitude. So maybe I'm just nitpicking and splitting hairs right there, but nonetheless, let's get back to it. Less guests due to a lot of reasons, but mostly as a thank you to MK fans for sticking with the game. The MK characters would have been, Jade would have been back, Cassie, Kung Jin, Sonya, and Kano. See, these are, well, let me read the rest of it before I give my opinion on that. I do not know the guests, but I am told they wanted to get a highly requested character. That is all. Goodbye, everyone. Highly requested? I'm gonna take a stab in the dark and say John Wick. I don't know why John Wick is the guy. I feel like John Wick and Keanu Reeves is like just one of those all-around well-loved stars and well-loved characters. So I could see it being John Wick, but that's just having a little bit of fun. Who else could come to mind that's a guest? It's funny because I feel like John Wick is just so at the front of my mind. I don't know who else could even be cool enough to fit the Mortal Kombat universe. I almost want to say John Wick because they've mostly been doing movie characters or comic book characters or something like that. So I'm going to go with John Wick. I don't think I even have another guess. I'm going to go with John Wick. Let me know in the comments who you guys think the guest character may be. But let me get back to my take about the 5 MK guests, right? Because the thing is, you're saying you're going to give us Jade, which kind of rings in the same tone of when you gave us Melina in Mortal Kombat 11 when she was initially in the game. So you're going to give us Jade, you're going to give us Cassie, which doesn't make a ton of sense because Johnny Cage is in the game, but he's not associated with Sonya to the extent that he's known to be. So where does Cassie come in? And then you put Sonya in the game also. So it almost reads as if you're getting Cassie, Sonya, and Kano, I feel like the third DLC story would have revolved around them and their relationship, because you know how Sonya's always trying to capture Kano. So I don't really understand how that would come to fruition. But see, this is kind of my thing, right? Because you want to thank MK players for sticking with the game, But this just seems so sporadically all over the place, because while there is DLC, base roster characters that were in OG games should just be in the game. Like, the reality is, Sonya and Kano, both cameos, should have just been in the game. How you were going to introduce Cassie with this timeline doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but hey, if you like it, I love it. Kung Jin and Jade, Kung Jin, not so much of a fan favorite. I don't love Jade, but there's a large community of people who love Jade. But it just seems kind of like all over the place. Like, what would the third story DLC be? It would have had to have been something revolving around Sonya, Kano, and Johnny Cage, I would assume, because how does Cassie get introduced to that scenario? I don't know, but overall, this is what Fate Unknown is saying. He's saying this, it sounds definitive. He's pretty much doubling down on what he said yesterday, and he's saying this is 100% happening. Tom Brady seems to think the same. I think everybody else is kind of coping with the idea that, maybe the game will live on and somehow we'll get around it. But the truth is, I've always said the numbers have always spoke for themselves. Like, they sold 3 million in the first 3 months, sold 1 million over the next 9 months, and then Chaos Reigns didn't sell well. I don't have an official number on that, but I mean, Mortal Kombat 11 sold 15 million copies, bro, and it was selling continuously through the timeline of the 4 years. So even if it was discounted sales, etc., the game was still being played, and people still play it to this day. I know a lot of people do the whole thing about the previous game bias and blah 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 blah, but I've always said since day one, Mortal Kombat 11 was the better game. I did enjoy Mortal Kombat 1. I did call people out for saying that they missed Mortal Kombat 11 because they couldn't adjust to Mortal Kombat 1. But when I was saying that, I also expected the things to get better. I think when I started having my turning point was when I tried to pick up Reptile, and based on the way that I wanted to play the character, I felt forced to play Honeybee's team, which was Reptile and Scorpion. I went through the whole roster in the lab session one day, and while some other things worked, the damage that I wanted to get and the setups that I wanted to create, it was best with Scorpion. And that's when I start feeling my tides turn, like, oh shit, this might be limited. We might be playing inside of a box with cameos. And granted, the game has gotten better since then, but overall, I just think you can't make something like that and not have a great system in place where it just feels very lost. Like, even small things like when Reiko does a command grab and you call out Tremor and your main character falls, you can see the combo. I just hate things like that, and I think that just comes down to like laziness and lack of design and lack of time spent making a polished product. So I think overall they should never do this cameo system again. We had 2v2 in Mortal Kombat 9, which I didn't play much, or even when you had the character tag from the Mortal Kombat 11 towers, even that could have worked, because then you still could have worked in characters from the game. In reality, if you would have got rid of the cameos and just had it where the main characters also had an assist character, which was part of the roster, it makes the game fun. And even with that, you can swap out a full 2v2. But I just think that this product was just doomed from the beginning because it was never really a Mortal Kombat game. I think we've all came to that conclusion, that it was an Injustice game. And then you combine it with the fact that the cameo system it never stood a chance. Nobody really liked it. Nobody asked for it. It was really from out of left field. Felt like a cash grab. All the microtransactions, the lack of quality of life stuff when the game first launched, all the bugs, and then the lack of communication for months when things weren't received in a well manner. When people were having gripes, I remember Ed Boon just kind of disappeared off the face of the planet for like 3 to 4 months while things were getting fixed up. It might have been even longer. I really can't remember, but I also recall on Twitter like, yo, we're not hearing from Tyler, we're not hearing from Stephanie, we're not hearing from Ed. When things were kind of at their worst point, we just weren't hearing from them. So this makes a ton of sense. Even though it's disappointing, I think it makes a ton of sense. Let's see what the homeboy Big Lee's has to say. He says, NRS and Ed Boon have been on record stating that they will be supporting Mortal Kombat 1 for years to come. They said it will be the longest supported game. If news of canceling DLC is true, this is the second game in a row where they did not fulfill that promise. And the funny thing about him saying that is because they were really pushing that heavy. But even with Mortal Kombat 11, it was such a good product. And even with COVID, I still think that it fulfills people's obligations for the most part. We had some bumps in the road as far as like things that we wanted, or maybe communication being adjusted, the way that Breakaway was kind of handled and things of that nature. But overall, there was enough communication and enough good product for things to last through COVID. I really am curious to see, well, there's no way for us to know now, but I'm really curious to know what was Mortal Kombat 11's plans if COVID didn't happen, because for the most part, Mortal Kombat 11 was a great purchase. Very fun to play, a lot of content. I felt it was well worth your money. I mean, I didn't play all of the crypt and stuff like that, so even with the amount of money and time that I put into the game and enjoyed it, I didn't even do everything in it. So that would speak to the fact that it's enough to go around as far as getting your bang for your buck as far as content goes, right? Because I enjoyed the game in totality and I didn't even do all the stuff in it. For those people who like to grind towers and get all that obscure stuff, I'm sure you feel like you got your money's worth. So I wonder what was going to be added to that if COVID didn't happen. But when it came to Mortal Kombat 1, I've never felt that way. I mean, I'm still going to play the game over time as the new characters come out and just make content around it, because I think I've gotten to a point where I accept Mortal Kombat 1 for what it is, but it's not better than Mortal Kombat 11. And I know that people are going to get into the comments and kind of make those arguments about, you know, which one is better, but I think just the way that this is ending, it kind of confirms and validates Mortal Kombat 11 was the better game. Even if you're not saying gameplay, it's the better game in the aspect of you got your money's worth, right? You don't feel cheated, you don't feel robbed. Chaos Reigns would have sold better if people felt like that they got their money's worth from the initial launch of Mortal Kombat 1. The reason that Mortal Kombat 11 continued to sell well over time with the DLC and all these things, regardless of if you had some of the same gripes about communication, is because at the end of the day, if I'm getting my money's worth, I'm willing to spend more money. People have issues with some of the microtransactions in Tekken 8 and things like that. But me, I'm of the ilk that if I pay for a full game and you add things to it, or you have small microtransactions to keep the lights on and keep new things coming out, as long as you're innovating, I'm willing to pay. I'm not looking to get the most for the least amount of cash. I'm willing to pay if I'm enjoying my experience. So if I buy your base game at $70 or $90 for the deluxe edition, or $110, $120 for the ultimate edition, as long as you're adding more to that, I don't mind spending, $5 here from some type of in-game currency, or, $10 here from some particular thing, if you're giving more to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as I can go back and play and enjoy that experience, because I don't play stories a lot. Even in Tekken 8, I haven't played the story mode or the expansion, but the fact that I paid that money and I can go back and play it down the road, that makes me feel good. Same thing with Chaos Reigns. I haven't played it yet, but when I decide to go back and play it, I can still enjoy that. The thing is, when you start giving us microtransactions, but we're not getting nothing new, that's when things feel shady. You got characters on the game who have skins and palettes, and it'll be like 5 or 6 slots that's empty right next to it. So it's like, why are we getting the same skins recolored over and over? Like, it just felt like we never got our money's worth. So I don't really know how true this is or isn't, but just based on, if I look at all the, I don't want to say evidence because we don't have all things confirmed. If I look at all the situational evidence outside, the potential situational evidence, it's hard to believe that Mortal Kombat 1 is going to go forward, because based on what? The overall consensus is you don't like it. And yeah, selling 4 million copies is great for any other game, but when your previous game sold 15 million copies, and you just pretty much only sold 4 now, that's 11 million copies lost. That's a ton of revenue. That's like a ton of money. So I don't know really what the overall idea was when the game launched. I don't know how it came to fruition. It would be kind of crazy for WB to force NRS's hand, make them make the game, and then chastise them when the game doesn't sell well because it was rushed and forced. That's kind of like a shitty situation to be in. But I do hope that as time goes forward with the next Mortal Kombat, first of all, I hope we get back to one-on-one. I think we just need to get back to true Mortal Kombat, one-on-one, original characters being who they are, Liu Kang being the true fire god for Mortal Kombat 11, not this revamped version. Put everybody back to who they were. So let's just go back to the basics, right? Like sometimes you really just need to get your ass kicked to get off the ground, dust yourself off, and just come back. And I think because of how great Tekken 8 was with their product, how great Street Fighter 6 has been with their product, and how great Dragon Ball FighterZ was with their product and the continuous life cycle of it. Even though some of you guys don't love Dragon Ball FighterZ, I'm a huge component for that game. Even Sparking Zero. I haven't really played a ton of Sparking Zero, but it seems like the people who are playing that game, they're getting their bang for their buck. And even when I played and practiced a little bit, I can see the potential. I just got too many games to play. The overall thing that Mortal Kombat needs to truly learn from this lesson: listen to your community. Stop focusing on pros so much. If you make a great game for casuals, the pros are going to figure it out. And I think Tom Brady even said this to me before. It was either Tom Brady or Ninja. It was one of them, when we were having a conversation. But essentially, if you make a pretty solid game for casuals to enjoy, but there's a competitive gap where you can get better and you can win by being better than your opponent, The pros are going to figure that out. But the thing is, when you entertain all the casuals to a certain extent while there's still a skill gap, they're going to watch all the pro competition, and you can put more money into the game and more money into the pots to make the pros want to compete, because people are going to watch. That's what happened with Mortal Kombat 11. And in reality, they were kind of shady on the Mortal Kombat 11 money. If they would have put in the money that Street Fighter and Tekken is getting out here, these things would have popped off. But you got to give us a quality game first. When you kind of cash grab and you kind of give us the bare minimum, that's just not going to work in 2024, 2025. That shouldn't have worked 5 to 6 years ago, but it's definitely not going to work now. You need to look at your competition, see what they're doing, and then do your own version of that. If you look at Tekken 8 and you look at Street Fighter 6, you're getting your bang for your buck. Mortal Kombat isn't giving us customization. It's not giving us awesome skins, a bunch of re-swapped out palettes. While you got Tekken 8 over here, you're able to create your own character skin and make things look pretty cool. And there's a nice amount of variety to that. Even in Street Fighter 6, there's not a ton of customization, but you do have a ton of different skins, a ton of different palette swaps. And even when you think about Street Fighter 5, the skins were just endless in that game. It was a ton of skins. People want to have customization. People want to feel personalization. When you make a base game that seems very vanilla, and then on top of that, you don't give us awesome content and stuff to do in the game, your game just dies. And while I don't want to see Mortal Kombat 1 take this hard L, sometimes you just got to get your ass kicked to dust yourself off, get back up and start over. So I hope that they really got an understanding and humbling to go forward, because at this point you can only go up. You can't go worse. And the thing that is great about Mortal Kombat is they have enough past success where they can kind of look back at things and say, okay, what made Mortal Kombat 11 sell this many copies? What made Mortal Kombat X sell this many copies? Why do people love Mortal Kombat 9 so much even though it's so old? Just look at your past 4 games, and then the next thing they need to do, figure out your identity of what you're going to be. So if I play Mortal Kombat 12 or Mortal Kombat, I'm going to say 12 and 13, hoping that they learn their lesson, because there should not be a Mortal Kombat 2. There should not, like this new timeline where things are being pushed in this new way, never do it again. Never ever do it again. I think it was bullshit. I think that they knew it was an Injustice reskin game, so they tried to come with this new angle. Never do that again. People want to play Mortal Kombat. There are 40, 50-year-old gamers who've been playing Mortal Kombat since the 90s. They want to play Mortal Kombat. They don't want to play some new thing that you made and called Mortal Kombat that has nothing to do with the lore that they grew up on. So I hope that's the first lesson that they understand, is make Mortal Kombat, which is legitimately with the characters being who they're supposed to be, not any gender bending Cyrax and Sector, which didn't bother me, but logically it just doesn't make sense. Sub-Zero and Scorpion are 2 of the most popular characters in the franchise, probably the faces of the franchise. They should always be strong. Sub-Zero should not be bottom tier like he was in this game. Give people what they want. Overall, make Mortal Kombat the type of experience that reminds them of their childhood and growing up to now. And then when it's all said and done, if you don't know how to do a 2v2 game, either study the people that know how to do a 2v2 game, or make multiple modes, or stick to what you know and do 1v1. The biggest difference between Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 11 is that you feel like you get robbed too often when it comes to neutral set play, because you got this type of shit where you do something unsafe and call it cameo. People don't want to play, like when I lose, when other people lose, when I lose, whoever loses, we want to feel like we lost because the other player was better than us. I don't want to feel scrubbed and cheesed out. And while Mortal Kombat 11 had some cheesy things in it, because it was one-on-one, you could kind of figure out your opponent, get your timer, and then find your way. And Mortal Kombat 1 is too much random stuff to cover bad decision making. So I think overall, I don't want to kick them while they're down, but I'm going to err on the side of, I believe that this is true. You know, I really believe that this is true. I don't see this being a coincidence. Fate Unknown sounds very certain of himself. He almost sounds remorseful and apologetic that he messed up the miniature future plans that Mortal Kombat 1 has going forward, and just being known as the guy who kind of put this bad information out there that makes their brand look bad. But hey, I think at this point, the only direction you can go is up. So hopefully Mortal Kombat dust themselves off, maybe potentially get away from WB so they won't have their hand forced when it comes to cash grabbing. And just like, the reality is this: the next Mortal Kombat game, which I don't think is going to be the next game, I think it's going to be Injustice 3, unless they can get away from WB and all that, right? The next Mortal Kombat game should be the best product that they ever made, because when you get your ass kicked and handed to you in the manner which they have this year, it should humble you and make you hungry. Now they have something to prove going forward. There's no more, look at the sales we made. You know, you guys need to get in the lab if you don't like this or that, like Stephanie said in the One Combat cast. I think at this point, they should be completely humbled and understand we made a bad product. We did our fans dirty. We need to come back better, stronger, and give them what they want. Go back to the Mortal Kombat lore that we all know and love and we're familiar with. Go back to that lore. Go back to one-on-one play. If you're gonna have a tag play, make it a separate mode, but give us the option of one-on-one play. And then most importantly, go back to the gritty style of Mortal Kombat 11 in the previous games. This beautiful Mortal Kombat 1 shit was like, everybody was pretty. Melina's pretty. Like, no, get back to the gore. What made this game when I was young was it was the first game with blood and gore. And of course we have other games that have that type of stuff in it now, but the reality is Mortal Kombat was the ones that opened the door with this type of content. Get back to what you know. Being pretty, being sexy, being brightly colored and all that. That's not what Mortal Kombat is about. Mortal Kombat is about the pit. It's about skulls in the pit. It's about fatalities. It's about crushing blows, which I do miss and I think was innovative. That's another thing when it comes to identity. Some people hated crushing blows, but you know what? Crushing blows wasn't in any other fighting game as far as how they seemed in Mortal Kombat 11. A big shot that cracks some bones and get you a large combo. I thought that was innovative. That felt like Mortal Kombat 11. It felt like their identity. This game right here, I don't know what this game was. You know what I'm saying? And I want to keep kicking the wise down. I don't want to make this video too long. And I don't want to have an I told you so moment, because the reality is I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm starting to enjoy Mortal Kombat 1 again. However, I do think Mortal Kombat 11 was the better product. I always stood by that, and I feel like if they made Mortal Kombat 12, it would have been a smash. But for some reason, they chose to go this way. They got humbled. They got their ass kicked. It seems like the development for the game is over, which is insane because the game came out last September. It's only November. So that's legitimately 15 months. 15 months and it's over with. 15 months. And Chaos Reign selling poorly was the biggest deal, but I think the writing was on the wall when you just look at the participation, the reputation of the game, and hearing people talk about it online. It just never was gonna succeed. Like, you can't start that poorly and then find a way to turn around that goodwill. If they would have just held the game off and launched it now in this state, maybe it starts off well, but it just started so bad. Now you're like digging yourself out of a hole versus starting at point A and moving on up. You're climbing back to point A just to get in people's good graces. So overall, this is the humbling that they needed. I'm pretty sure that Fate Unknown is telling the truth. I'd be very shocked if he was wrong, because when it all comes down to it, it's all about dollars and cents. And it's like, even if the team wants to keep it going, if it's not making any money, then professionally and business-wise, it doesn't make a ton of sense. So it almost feels like Fate has to be right. And now all the copy can stop, all the lying can stop, and we can just say, hey, they dropped the ball this time. Mortal Kombat 11 was the better game. If you don't think it's the better game because of gameplay, then at the very least, it's the better product. If you don't think it's the better product because you love gameplay that much, then at the very least, we got our money's worth for what we spent. We simply didn't get that in Mortal Kombat 1, at least at launch. Even if we're getting it now, we didn't get it at launch, and that's the problem. And even now, I can say that we're not really getting it, because when it comes to skins and customizations and things of that nature, even just small stuff like naming your variation, like, it's so many things that Mortal Kombat 1 is just missing that just takes away from the identity and the experience for the player. So overall, we didn't get our money's worth. I don't know if you guys agree with me in the comments, but let me know, what do you think? Should the game just die and be done? It pretty much feels like that's where we're going, but do you believe it? Or are you waiting for Ed Boon's official word? Or do you think that the team is kind of embarrassed and tucking their tail at the moment until the pro competition is over, and then we'll get an official announcement? But with this being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I hope it wasn't too long. I didn't even mean to rant this long. I meant for this video to be short, but the truth is, it's just like, we've been saying out the gate Mortal Kombat 11 was better. And it's not revisionist history about, oh, what Mortal Kombat 11 was and what people were saying about it then. At the end of the day, we got our bang for our buck, and I think that's where Mortal Kombat 1 fell short. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. The next time, it's your boy Lou Streets. I'm out. Peace. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. You guys enjoy the time with your family. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Why do you do that so recklessly? Stop it. Doing that shit no more.